Hey there, Parker Reed here, and welcome to PR Media, your home for everything movies and music through my eyes. And today we have a review of the brand new 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray edition of The Beatles in A Hard Day's Night. The Beatles in their feature film debut, one of the greatest rock and roll comedy adventures ever. The film has a fully restored negative and a digitally restored soundtrack. The film takes on the just left of reality style of mock documentary following a day in the life of John, Paul, George, and Ringo as fame takes them by storm. Going into this review, I've never seen A Hard Day's Night before. I've heard the Beatles in my entire life. I'm a big fan of Hard Day's Night, the soundtrack, but I've never watched the movie itself. And while I didn't instantly fall in love with it, it did feel like a bit of a excuse to make a bunch of different music videos and debut a bunch of new songs. I did enjoy it for the quirky sensibility of this almost 60-year-old picture, and I think it's a great artifact in rock and roll history. And this Criterion release is pretty solid, albeit the packaging isn't my favorite, but I would recommend the film to big Beatles fans, but for those who aren't huge Beatles fans, you can probably skip it and just listen to the music instead. But would I recommend you watch this 4K transfer? Let's find out. If you decide to pick up The Beatles A Hard Day's Night on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray in the US, there's only one version to pick from. It's a new collector's edition from Criterion Collection you see here. And on the cover we have some new artwork of the Fab Four. On the back we have some information about the movie, its technical specs, as well as what special features are offered. Here is what the spine looks like. And then everything is housed in this slipcase here. But what I don't like about the recent string of 4K releases from Criterion is the booklet's just kind of like chilling in there. So it can fall out at any point when you open it up. And while it is a nice high quality paper here, featuring some behind the scenes stuff, some information about the restoration, and some nice minimalist artwork, it is a bit flimsy and I don't love it that much because in the inside, I don't know why this is that color either. On the inside we have some new disc artwork, the 4K disc here. Underneath we had the Blu-ray disc and then the Fab Four behind it. Overall, just kind of chintzy packaging and I'm not a huge fan of it. For visuals on A Hard Day's Night, we have native 4K, and this is in full screen, so you will not have black bars at the top and the bottom. And overall, I thought this picture was just serviceable. I appreciate that we got a new 4K scan of this release, but it is a digital one, and I don't think it looks as good as some of its counterparts like It's a Wonderful Life or Psycho that are also in black and white. I think the Dolby Vision HDR in this disc really helps this a lot because the black and whites are very deep and inky, and there's a lot of separation here that wasn't available in the Blu-ray and especially the DVD. And while the detail is definitely better on this 4K disc, I don't believe it's head and shoulders better than the Blu-ray. This didn't have the biggest budget back in 1964, so the film itself isn't of the best quality, and I think you're going to find a lot more detail on films even a lot older than this. That being said, this is the best the Beatles have ever looked in 4K, and I did appreciate seeing it. I just wish the picture was a little bit better detail-wise, but everywhere else it was serviceable. For audio on A Hard Day's Night, we have an LPCM mono mix, and I thought this mix was pretty faithful to its source material. And I do want to say you do have a couple of different options here as far as what audio you want to listen to. If you want a more updated DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 mix, you can choose that, but the Beatles themselves were fans of mono, so I decided to watch this in the uncompressed mono mix, and I thought it wasn't sounding that great. It did sound very much other times. It doesn't sound technically as good as the 5.1 mix, but it is more faithful to what the movie wanted to be, and the music itself, which is the important part of this because the rest of the movie is kind of a shit show. The music sounds good here, so I think it's going to be your best bet. If you want a more technically good audio track, you can go with the 5.1, but I went with the mono and I thought it was fine. It was pretty faithful. It reminded me sort of Django, that sort of track where the audio isn't fantastic, but that's what people heard back then. So would I recommend A Hard Day's Night on 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray? I'm going to have to say yes, this is a wait for a sale item. At $35 before tax and shipping, you're going to end up paying over $40 for this. That's just a bit too expensive. Wait for a Criterion annual half-off sale and pick this up for $20 or even less. I think it'll be worth it at that point. But right now, it's just a bit too expensive for me. Listen to a vinyl mix of this, and I think you'll get the effect because the rest of this corny movie isn't really worth it for me. But when you have it for like $20, it might be worth it. So I would recommend you watch the movie or listen to the music, but this Criterion disc, wait for a sale on it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what you saw here, you can check us out on Facebook or Instagram and like, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. My name is Parker Reed. You've been watching PR Media. Keep supporting physical media, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. And this was a Beatles song before it got copyright striked. This was a Beatles song, but now I'm singing and you're crying.